What about red meat?
What about fruit?
What about fat?
What about carbs?
Run it through the lab. Welcome to the Nutragrammatron Lab versus Edition. Yoplait strawberry yogurt versus Stonyfield organic plain yogurt, whole fat. Let's start with Yoplait strawberry yogurt. Per 100 calories, it delivers 3.34 grams of protein, 17.34 grams of carbohydrates, 1.33 grams of fat, with 0 grams of fiber, and 50 milligrams of sodium. And structurally, this is a very different type of yogurt. Protein is relatively low, fat is minimal, and carbohydrates dominate the profile. So instead of balance, this food is being carried primarily by carbohydrates, and more specifically by sugar. At 12.01 grams of sugar per 100 calories, most of the energy is coming from that single source. Now let's look at the axis. The macrogram index comes in at 14 out of 20, reflecting a weaker macronutrient balance. This is not distributing energy across protein, fat, and carbohydrates evenly. It is heavily weighted toward one side. The microgram index is 12 out of 20, supported by moderate micronutrient contribution, including about 15% of your daily value for calcium and 10% for vitamin D. So there is some support here, but it is limited and not especially broad. The fibrogram index is 2, for there's no fiber contributing to the structure. The sodiogram index comes in at 16 out of 20, slightly lower sodium contribution relative to the energy. The glycogram index is 6 out of 20, and this is where the structure really separates. This low GGI reflects a food that is not strongly supported across the system. Most of its contribution is coming from a narrow source rather than a balanced structure. This brings Yoplait strawberry yogurt to a final Nutragrammatron score of 50. This places this subject in the limited tier classification. Now we apply the same system to Stonyfield plain whole milk yogurt. Per 100 calories, it delivers 5.34 grams of protein, 7.34 grams of carbohydrates, 5.34 grams of fat, 0 grams of fiber, and 56.7 milligrams of sodium. And immediately the structure changes. Protein increases, fat increases, carbohydrates drop. So instead of one dominant source, energy is now distributed across multiple meaningful components. Now let's look at the axes. The macrogram index score is 18 out of 20, reflecting strong macronutrient balance. This is a yogurt where protein, fat, and carbohydrate all contribute in more even and supportive way. The microgram index score is 17 out of 20, and this is where Stonyfield separates even further. It delivers about 42% of your daily value for vitamin B12, 23% for calcium, and 20% for phosphorus. So instead of a narrow micronutrient profile, this food provides multiple meaningful contributions across different nutrient categories. The fibrogram index remains at 2 out of 20. There is still no fiber. The sodiogram index comes in at 18 out of 20, with moderate sodium relative to energy. The glycogram index score is 18 out of 20, reflecting a much stronger overall structure. This is a food supported across multiple axes, not just one. That brings Stonyfield to a final Nutragrammatron score of 73. This places it in the functional tier classification. So obviously both of these are yogurt, but they are not built the same. Yoplait is driven primarily by carbohydrates and sugar with lower protein, lower fat, and narrow micronutrient support. Stonyfield distributes energy across protein, fat, and carbohydrates, while also delivering stronger and broader micronutrient contribution. A simple way to understand it is one is built like a sweetened yogurt product, the other is built like a nutritionally supportive food. And that difference shows up clearly in the structure. Yoplait falls into the limited category, Stonyfield reaches functional tier. The Nutragrammatron, we don't rely on labels or assumptions. We measure what the food is actually doing. And in this case, the difference is structural. This has been the Nutragrammatron Lab. Structured evaluation, transparent criteria, consistent analysis. Classification complete.